So I've been playing Stray, the cat game, and I have a lot to say about it. I put out the before you buy on Game Ranks, and I feel like I needed to go a little deeper and explain kind of why I really, really, really like the game, but I don't love it. Stray just falls short of greatness for me, and I think it's an interesting conversation because it's not necessarily the fact that the game is short. Now, when I revealed to people, like when I tweeted that the game, it took me 4.5 hours to beat, a lot of people were surprised. Myself included, I was expecting a little bit of a bigger experience, but some of my areas of disappointment aren't necessarily the length itself, the actual runtime, but just how some of it went down. Now, I was really excited for this game just because I technically really like cats. I have to say that I'm new to this. I never really was crazy about cats until I got a cat, and Abby is I don't trust her. I still don't really know her, but she's lived in my home now for like 6 years, so I love her. She also kind of looks like the cat from the game, which they keep the cat really vague and ambiguous in the game. You don't know the gender, you don't really know the age, and it doesn't have a name, and I like that. It lets you kind of like apply your own whatever to it. So I directly applied my cat Abby to the game, and that really worked for me. It also is a good game for dogs. I mean, maybe a dangerous game for dogs if you're worried about your TV, but here's me abusing the meow button.
Good boy. Yeah.
It was a really nice moment, but I was also totally freaking out about my TV. I'm like, please don't flip out. Please don't flip out on this digital cat. Thankfully, he didn't. Shout out to my boy Boston. But Stray is a really simple game, but it's the type of game I like. The amount of times I've talked on this channel about how I love games like Inside or Little Nightmares, like this is an experience like that where this one is fully 3D and way more explorable. But in terms of how it's just a brief kind of linear experience. None of the gameplay is too complex. You're not necessarily dying and retrying every couple of minutes. It's more about just going through this thing for a couple of hours and wrapping it up and enjoying it. Even for its one fault, it is a relaxing, cool vibe game. This game wins on vibes. This is like the lo-fi playlist, like the lo-fi beats playlist of video games. And for some people, they might hear that and go, holy shit, yes. Yes, yeah. What it really is and the team behind it, it's really ambitious. So it's like these cyberpunk kind of abandoned cities that are only inhabited by these quirky robots. And the city and the areas in this game are downright fucking beautiful, man. Pardon my French, but I actually so it took me 4.5 hours, and that was me really, really taking my time with this game. There's a sprint button, but I barely used it. I love just walking around and looking at these environments. But thankfully, when you are moving and grooving as this cat and jumping up, it can feel really smooth and very cat-like. Unfortunately, the jumps are really just context jumps where you see a ledge, you press X, and then the cat will auto jump to that ledge. There's really not a lot to it, but that's the whole thing of this game. It's really about the messing around as a cat, scratching stuff, meowing, rubbing on people's legs, solving puzzles really just kind of by being a mischievous cat. That's the stuff that really works, and I think it's really brilliant how paced everything is. I did say this in the Before You Buy video, but essentially how it introduces concepts. I love games that do this. Games that will bring a gameplay concept to the fold and then let you use it and play around with it for a while, and then when it makes sense to ditch it, or if the story changes or something, that concept is left behind. So you're never really necessarily doing the same thing throughout the game. You may have seen the trailer and you may have seen little stealth elements of the cat hiding. You don't do that the whole game. That's only specific sections of the game, and then it moves on to other stuff. And I like that. That makes it interesting moment to moment. There's always a new thing. Nothing is repeated in this game, and I like that. Really, the only repeated thing, and it's not really repeated, is you returning to the hub city areas, which are just so much fun to explore, from down on the street level where you feel really small up against the tall robots, to when you're up on the rooftops, just kind of looking at all the neon and the draw distance of the city. It's really cool. And sure, I'll use that phrase that I abuse so often. It's like concept art come to life, but it really is, with how detailed and how grimy some of these city streets are, how run down these buildings look, how the neon reflects off of everything, the dull glow of windows, all of it really, really comes together, especially with the fact that you're just this little cat. You're the only really normal looking thing in the entire game. And yet despite like the wacky, the kind of quirkiness of the robots, the charm of the robots, like it still all comes off really believable and convincing. And that world is something like I really fell in love with and wanted to spend a lot of time with. And you know, maybe that's the game working against itself, because the one thing that to me held it back from greatness was that it felt like it ended just as it started to get going. So it's not really the short length. I actually really, I haven't really admitted this too much, but sometimes I like a short game. Sometimes I like a game that doesn't overstay its welcome. It knows the type of thing it wants to do, and it does it, and that's it. Like a television show that has an end season. It doesn't just go on for 40 years like Grey's Anatomy or whatever. Like something that just understands when to wrap it up. And Stray does, but I thought it could have used a little something in the middle, man. And that's what kind of bummed me out, is that once I started to get a taste of understanding this world and everything going on and really getting into it, it was done. It wrapped up. Really, I could have just used some sort of middle act. It felt like it should have had like an intro and then act 1, act 2, act 3, where it really kind of just had an intro, act 1, act 2, where I think a second act could have given us more time to get to know one of the specific robot characters, really draw out and detail more of this world, and introduce maybe another little fun gameplay sequence or a new thing to do, and kind of even keep going with that freshened pace. Like, I'm not looking for the game. I'm not saying it's a 4.5 hour game. I wish it was 10. No, not at all. But I just wish I had a little bit more, because ultimately there's some really cool stuff there with like humanity and robots and artificial intelligence and sentience and just life that they started to kind of set up. And I thought some of it was really cool, really simple, but I was sitting there thinking like, ooh, I bet by the end this is gonna like emotionally hit me a little bit. And it really didn't. And that's what bummed me out, because everything else about it is so damn perfect. Because again, I want to reiterate that I do recommend it. I just don't think it's like the 10 out of 10 perfection. If anything, I want to see him do more. I want him to take another crack at this. This had to have been an incredibly challenging game to make for such a small studio, from the way the cat animates realistically, to the beauty of these worlds, to the cities and how busy they are and bustling they are with, you know, robot NPCs walking around. Like, it is a lot going on graphically, visually, art direction wise, conceptual. Like, it's a lot. It has so many moments where like you enter a new area or you turn a corner and you just see what they designed, like the decay, the grime to something, or the vastness of something that just makes you go, wow. Like when I do before you buy videos, right? Like I usually capture a lot of the gameplay, and I always do like and we're back with another episode of blah, 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 blah. And I do like the opening shot. I usually try and do that, make that opening shot like a wow shot, like the character standing on top of a cliff, like whoa. And then that's where we put the before you buy title up. There are so many points in this game where I started recording footage for what could be a potential opening shot. And like I had too many to choose from. The game needs a photo mode, by the way. It doesn't have a photo mode, and I find that unforgivable. Like, what? So that would be great. I've been taking a lot of screenshots, playing through the game, playing through, like, I'm on my second playthrough now, and I can't stop just snapping shots, dude. It's really, really nice looking. And then you have the music, where the music covers a bunch of different, like, genres, but it all has kind of like a cyber funky robot vibe to it. But every once in a while, a song or like a part of the soundtrack will hit that reminds me of specifically Metal Gear Solid 2. Now, this is very, very specific, but like some of the music sounds a little bit like some of those Big Shell jams, like a little bit more of those like loungy jams, and I really like that. So I guess in conclusion, like while it didn't quite like resonate with me, like impact with me in the way I've seen some other like critics and people really think it did by the end, I still really enjoyed the whole journey. I wish there was a little bit more. I wish there was a little bit more done to really, like, I see the potential of how it could have been even better, how it could have been a little bit more compelling, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more emotional in the story. But even if it didn't reach those heights for me, that's just my expectations. I'm lumping it onto it. That's my problem. I still think it's a really good time. I think if anything, if it's only 4 hours and you're not interested really, but like eventually you are and you play it, if you end up not liking it, you only waste 4 hours of your time. Like that's one good thing you can say about short games. But this game, cat games, like these types of games are cool. More games like this, more games like Tokyo Jungle, more just stuff like this, please. I am very curious to see what this studio, specifically Blue 12, does next, because I think this is like a pretty wild debut necessarily. I think it's one of their first developed games. It's published by Annapurna, who's done a lot of stuff, but this is something else, man. They managed to make the video game cat convincing and cute, and like you see it and you go, That's what I do when I see cats. I go, "Urgh." It's weird. Okay, whatever. Leave me alone. Listen, Stray is cool. It's a nice experience. Bottom line is, like, it's more of an art game. It's more of an experience game. I know some people aren't into that, but like, this isn't Fortnite. This is like a little bit more if you just like to look at stuff and appreciate how things are made. Here you go, man. This is beautiful. It's engaging and it kept me interesting, and it acted like a little bit of escapism. I think that's all I have to say about Stray right now. Like, for those specific reasons, I really, really liked it. I do not completely love it, but I still think it's special, and I ultimately recommend it. I could talk myself in circles here, but I want to hear what you guys think in the comments. Do you like cats? Let me know if you like cats. It's a complicated issue. Also, let me know what you think about Stray, the video game. It's coming out. If you're watching this video, it's probably dropping soon, so you'll be diving into it soon if you were looking forward to this. Let me know if it's gonna meet your expectations or not. It's all subjective. It's all personal feelings. Like, you know, like, it's just me talking about how I feel, so I definitely want to know where you guys land, because colleagues I've been talking to, people I've been talking to, have really loved it top to bottom. I needed a little bit more, but again, let me know what you guys are thinking. If you like this, if you get what I'm trying to do here on this channel, I'm just trying to talk about stuff I love and the things I like about games. Click the like button. It's all you got to do. It legitimately helps me out. Thank you. Thank you to people who have my back on Patreon and YouTube memberships. That's really it. I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for being here. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.